All right, we are back on Out of the Park Baseball 22, July 11th, 2026. The first year player draft is scheduled for today in the game. So I thought that this would be a good place to start for episode number 26 before we get into the draft and the All-Star break, trade deadline, and maybe even the end of the season. We will go through some comments. I did see some comments from Paul Sporer, which was really, really cool. If you watch Out of the Park Baseball content, I'm sure you know who he is, but if you don't, he is a Twitch partner, and he also is a phenomenal contributor for Fangraphs. He is the host of the Sleeper and the Bust podcast. He writes some awesome articles I enjoy reading, so if you don't already know who he is, definitely check him out. But let's get into some other comments here. So we'll start with this one. From what I've seen when playing this game, for prospects, work ethic and intelligence are key. Intelligence gives them a chance to outgrow their potential, so if there's a player that has some tools I like, then I'd take them. And I think that's a really good point. If it comes down to a prospect that maybe seems like if I have two similar prospects, I guess what I'm trying to say, I'm probably going to go towards the one that has high work ethic and or high intelligence. As opposed to the prospect that doesn't have either of those, or maybe has a poor work ethic, or he's not very smart. So that's a good thing to point out. I think that's something to keep in mind for sure. Whether it comes to prospects, the draft, any trades that you're trying to make, that's always a good thing to keep in mind. I hope management gives you a little more time. Their patience appears to be running out, though. I wonder if your 27-0 loss to the Dodgers would be the most lopsided shutout in MLB history. A few years ago, I attended a Mariners game where the M's defeated the Dodgers on an extra inning balk-off, and according to Wikipedia, there have only been 21 balk-offs in MLB history. So that's a pretty neat fact from William there. That was really cool. Nice job getting the top prospects. Make sure to keep the morale high, as I've heard that affects development. I think about trading Chacon. Since he's fragile, you might be able to get a really good piece for him. Also, I don't think Simba can cut it at shortstop anymore, which is kind of an oof. Maybe try storing by range and try to get the best shortstop possible. Hitting doesn't really matter at the position if you have 80 range. So that is something that we should maybe try to take a look at if we can. The Coors Field factor is so frustrating. I give you credit for taking on the challenge. Is a mirror the pitcher's numbers inflated at home while your batters just seem to be so-so without the Coors offensive boost? Yeah, that's something that the team deals with both in this game and in real life as well, especially this year. Their hangover effect this year has been really the offense has been really, really bad, but that's bound to happen. The offense is going to be boosted playing at a field like Coors Field, and the pitcher's going to obviously struggle there because of the air, and obviously vice versa. When the team goes on the road, it's a tough adjustment for the hitters to make, but the pitchers are going to look a little better too. So that's something that we definitely have to keep battling as long as we are doing this save with the Rockies. And then what happens if the owner fires you? Is there a way to override it, or is that just it? And then there's a little conversation. I want to include this comment in here and thread just because, as the one comment before said, the owner's patience may be running out, running thin. So I did just want to, make a point that there is the potential that I will get fired. So I don't have cannot be fired on. So if I get fired, then we'll cross that bridge when we get to it. But I just wanted to put that in there because we have not done super great so far with the Colorado Rockies. I hope that the owner lets me see it through. But you can see that we took over this team in 2021, and outside of 2022 was a solid season, I suppose. But outside of that, there's really not been much to write home about. It's just been the same bad to mediocre performance that we've had in the past. I hope the fact that we're going to have a high balance at the end of the season will convince my owner to keep me around and not fire me. That was one of his goals, but I'm sure he wants to see some results on the field. And to this point, we just haven't shown it yet. So hopefully I am able to kind of see this thing through and bring this team back to the playoffs. I have my fingers crossed, but I know the nature of this game. If I'm not giving results on the field, I might get fired. So I just wanted to get that out there, that is a possibility that I get fired in this save. So with all that said, let's get into the first-year player draft. You can see that here are your top 10 prospects, all out of college. Martin, Linut, Ionescu, cool. Devlin, Groenfield, Gonzalez, Kidd, Dobbs, Durst, Wheaton. So we got a lot of pitchers here. And then we have a couple second baseman, third baseman, center fielder. So let's take a look here and go to the first-year player draft. You can see that we have the second overall pick, which will be good. So hopefully we'll get a pretty solid piece there. The Reds have the first overall pick, and this is the rest of the draft order for the first round. So let's start the mock draft. We'll take a look at the OSA mock draft, and they have us taking that Linut guy who is out of college. Really good power, really good eye. He should be able to be okay at avoiding strikeouts. Out of Missouri State, his contact might be a bit of an issue. He's got a really good arm, so he probably could stick at third base. Cherishes his privacy and can't wait to leave after a game. And Colorado's not the biggest market, so compared to some other ones, so I mean that might not be a huge deal. Out of Missouri State University, so we'll see who's there at number 2. They think that the Reds are going to take Tim Martin, who seems like he'll be a solid all-around contributor, although this is what I was talking about. A guy like this, low adaptability, low work ethic, low intelligence, I probably would not want to pick this guy just because it is a bit of a risk. So we'll see. Phil Ionescu right here. It's kind of in the same mold as Lynott, I guess, except he's just the second baseman. He would not be able to play at third. Low intelligence, low adaptability, low greed. So there you go. He's out of Pepperdine. Some of the starting pitchers here. Josh Devlin, a power pitcher, a sidearm, which is interesting. It seems like he could be pretty solid. He's already 22 years old, but it seems like he could be pretty solid. Consistently focused on the tasks at hand. I'm not against getting another pitcher if I think that that's the best guy available. Mike Groenfield is interesting. Another 4-pitch pitcher. The control's not really there. As I said in the past, I'd like to kind of experiment maybe getting pitchers with more movement and more control. So Devlin, if he does live up to his potential, he's at 55 for the movement and control. Groenfield, he's at 65 for movement, but only 45 for control. Bobby Gonzalez, 70 control, 65 stuff. He's a power pitcher. That's interesting. High work ethic, low leader, low loyalty, high greed. So we got some options here. Ron Kidd, 60 movement. So we got some options here. And the good thing is, like, a lot of these guys are out of college, so they probably would be able to get to the major leagues fairly quickly. I'm going to take a look here just real quick. Tim Martin. Okay, so let's get into the first-year player draft. We'll see who the Reds take. They might take Tim Martin, so let's take a look. Auto draft until Colorado's pick, and they do end up going with Tim Martin. So we will have our choice of whoever we want here with the second overall pick. And I do think that we are going to go with a starting pitcher here after some deliberation. It just seems like Josh Devlin, he almost has to be the pick, an 80 grade potential starting pitcher. He is 22 years old, so he's a little old, but he had a really good year for Illinois this past season at college, a 1.78 ERA, 140 strikeouts to 26 walks. He is a power pitcher. The movement and control seem to grade out above average at 55. A scouting from our scout Bryce Flory. He should rank among the best starting pitching prospects in any organization. Everyone raves about his big-time stuff. It seems like he'll have at least 3+ pitches, and maybe the splitter ends up being a good 4th pitch for him too. He has the stamina, obviously, to be a starter, and I think that this is probably just the guy that we have to go for. He is only a 25 overall right now. But I do think that this is the guy that we should go for here. Just these guys don't come around super often. He's a very easy sign. He only wants the slot. So we're going to go here with Josh Devlin in round number 1. In the second round, I think we're going to go with Mike Cope. I just looked through a bunch of the batters, and it seems like this guy's probably the best of the bunch based on what we're kind of looking for. It seems like he'll be solid with contact. He might be able to hit it in the gaps. He doesn't have the greatest power. He doesn't have the greatest eye, but he should be able to avoid strikeouts. He's not going to stick in center field, but I think that he should be able to stick at a corner outfield spot, especially if the power ends up coming around a little more. He has a high work ethic, so maybe it does. We'll see if that does end up happening. So we are going to go ahead and draft Mike Cope here in round number 2. I think with our next pick, it's probably going to be Josh Dawson. I've been looking around. It just seems like he's probably the best available that we can go with. He's not going to be anything special, but maybe he can be a solid contributor somewhere down the road, or maybe he can be a trade piece at some point. I'm not thrilled about him, but I'm not thrilled about a lot of the options that are currently available. So we're going to go with Josh Dawson in round, the 3rd round? So we're going to draft him. I think in the 4th round, I'm going to go with Dave Adair. It just seems like he could be. He doesn't really have any speed, so he's not going to be great at running the bases. I don't even think he's going to be able to stick in right field. But I think that maybe if his offense comes around, he has high intelligence. He always focuses and concentrates on the right thing. Maybe he can be a good DH type for us, assuming the National League keeps the DH in the save and they don't revert like the American League did. The contact is a bit of a question mark, but I'm struggling to find anybody else that I kind of like more than Adair at this point in the 4th round. I looked at that Kyle Fontaine guy, but I think that David Adair is probably the option for us here in round number 4. In the 5th round, I'm going to take a chance on this high school pitcher, Jeremy Hindi. He's 18 years old. He's projected to have really good control. The movement is going to be about average. The stuff is the big question mark with him. He's a finesse pitcher, and that's not the type of guys that we normally try to develop. But I want to take a chance on him because he always gives an honest effort each day. He has high adaptability, and he has 5 pitches. One of them is projected to be a plus pitches slider, but maybe if we're lucky, the other ones kind of come around as well. He has 45 grade stamina. I'm fine with that when it comes to being in a starting rotation. So in round number 5, we're going to take a chance here on Jeremy Hindi and his really good control. So we're going to draft him in round number 5. In the 6th round, I think we will go with this college guy out of USC, the Kyle Fontaine guy. It seems like OSA likes him a little bit more than my head scout. It seems like OSA thinks his contact might come around a little more. The avoided strikeouts, they both seem to be in agreement that it's going to be pretty solid. Doesn't have a lot of home run power for a first baseman. Maybe he develops. The lack of an eye scares me a little bit, but I'm looking through all these options here. A lot of them really don't appeal to me. So I guess that we will go with Kyle Fontaine here in round number, round number 6. Yeah, the pickings are getting kind of slim. I really don't like a lot of these guys at the top of the board. I did kind of like Luis Bedoya a little bit here in round number 7. High loyalty, high work ethic, low greed. So I think that we will take him out of Vanderbilt College Jr. in round number 7 just because I want to get him before he runs off the board, and he definitely would not have been there anymore. So now we are here at round number 8. And in round number 8, I'm going to take a risk here on this catcher, Bob Arblaster, just because it seems like offensively he might be okay for a catcher, I guess. Not a lot of speed, obviously, but he's the only 80 grade catcher ability catcher in the class. His arm isn't very good. He has low work ethic, but in round number 8, I'll take a chance. I'll see if maybe he develops into a good, backup catcher for us. If he does, great. If not, at least it's good to kind of have him somewhere in the minors. And now we move on to round number 9. Let's see who we can find here. I'd like to maybe try to find somebody that's really good in the field and maybe could do something with the bat. Let's take a look. I think that guy's probably going to be Jeff Rebold. He's out of the University of Illinois Springfield College Jr. He's not, maybe he can do something with the bat, but really good speed. He can play really good pretty much anywhere in the infield, it seems like. Not first base, probably. He's only 5'11", but it seems like he could be, there we go. Almost forgot how to speak there. It seems like he could be pretty solid almost anywhere in the field, really. If you take a look at his ratings, it seems like, he could play a respectable outfield if we needed him to get out there. So we'll take Jeff Rebold here in round number 9. And then in the 10th round, the last round that I show here for the drafts, I will go with this Tris Finney guy just because it seems like his pitches will be pretty solid. It's just a matter of whether his stuff, his movement, and his control come around. High adaptability, low loyalty, low work ethic, which of course is obviously a risk, but there's not really anybody else comparable at this point that I would want to sink a resource into. So we're going to go here with Tris Finney. He did not do very well in 2025, but it seems like he did a lot better this past season, a 2.83 ERA. He was a 3-win pitcher, a 3.17 FIP. It seems like he did not allow as many home runs, didn't allow as many hits, struck out more, batters walked a lot less. So he took a big step from 2025 to 2026. So maybe he'll continue to do that in his transition to pro ball. So Tris Finney is the final guy I'm going to draft here on screen. So let me just complete this draft here real quick, and then we will get on with it. All right, so All-Star Week is over, and these were the rosters. I'm not going to read every single name, but if you want to pause and see who's there, you can. So there is the entire American League roster right there, and then we'll go down to the National League. Our representative this year was a nobody, because that's right, I turned that off. So that I did turn off the setting where every team needs to have representatives, so we did not have anybody good enough to make the All-Star game this year, which is always great to see. Prospects game roster, here were the prospects in the American League, there's a pitcher I was trying to get, Skylar Townsend. I just was never able to put together a good enough offer for him, but clearly he's looking pretty good. And then in the National League, I imagine we'll have a couple guys here. Yeah, so there's Cameron Burford, Jenderson Zapata, Chad Kirstein, who I just moved up to Double A because he was killing it down in A-ball. So now he is up to Double A. Devin Mullins, Victor Molina, Derek Curiel. We got 6 prospects on the National League prospect game roster, so that is really good to see. That's encouraging, at least the fact that we have 6 prospects here. Curiel getting ever so closer to a stint. We might bump him up to AAA here by the end of the season. Would not be against it if he can get it together there in Double A, but he will be on the Major League roster here pretty soon. And then in terms of the All-Star game, you can see that Spencer Torkelson, won the home run derby. We'll take a look at how Torkelson was doing. First, he was their top pick in the draft in real life last year. So we take a look here at how he has done so far. I guess we could just look at his entire batting stats. So he was called up there in 2021, and he had 15 home runs. And since then, he has been a really pretty solid player. He's really broken out the past few years. He hit 30 and 34 home runs in 2022 and 2023, but he seems to have become a more well-rounded player the past few years, a 3-win player, 4-win player, 3-win player already this season. This season, he's really having a breakout year at 26. So not only did he win the home run derby over Juan Soto, 15-14 in the final round there, he also won MVP He won MVP even though the American League lost. So good few days for Spencer Torkelson. So we are going to move on ahead here. We are going to make some trades. I especially would like to trade Estrada because I would like to open up a spot on the roster for, where is he? For Jim Epps. I think he's about ready to show us what he can do here. He's had an 826 OPS at AAA Albuquerque. So I really kind of want to see what he can do, given some starting playing time. So I do want to kind of try to trade, so I forget to speak, Thairo Estrada right now. As I said, if I do get a good offer for Chacon, I'll move him. He's 25 years old, but he is fragile, and that's the thing that kind of scares me a little bit. So if I could maybe trade him for someone that's, not fragile, but just as good, I wouldn't be against it. He's on a very team-friendly contract, so I'm sure there's got to be some interest in him somewhere around the league. I'm sure we could get some good guys, maybe even Major League ready guys, but if we can get a really good prospect for him, I wouldn't be opposed to that. Michael Chavis, if there's interest in him now, I definitely would not be against trading him. I mean, but for the most part, all these guys are available. I'm not going to trade Hunter Bishop. I do want him to be a big part of our lineup moving forward. He's on a cost-controlled, team-friendly, he has years of control left. Mountcastle, if there's interest in him, I wouldn't be against trading him. Would like to keep Drew Romo. Andrelton Simmons, if there's any interest out there for him, I wouldn't be against it, but I don't really know what's going to be out there. Alec Burleson, he's probably just going to take some at-bats for us for the rest of the season. He's not going to have a lot of value, and neither is Nani Williams. He's just keeping the center field spot warm for Derek Curiel eventually. Really, I mean, we could try to trade Denny Brady. It probably would be a good idea, 29 years old. He's had a pretty solid season. We're obviously going to keep Kumar Rocker. We're going to keep Hunter Green. We'd like to keep Kendall Williams. Jose Solis, if there's interest out there in him, wouldn't be against trading him. And then in terms of the bullpen, I would not be against trading Wander Suero. He is 34 years old, so maybe we could get some type of lottery ticket prospect for him. He's having a solid season, and we did get him off the waiver wire, so we'd really be we're playing with house money with him. And yeah, I'd say that most of these guys are available, so I'll try to find some offers, and we'll see where it takes us. Okay, so we did end up making a few trades. I was not able to trade everybody that I wanted to. The value just was not there, and in some cases, I don't want to say they were untradeable, but I didn't want to trade them just for the sake of trading them. So there's a couple guys on the team like Michael Chavis, Ryan Mountcastle, Denny Brady that I was not able to trade, unfortunately. So with that said, I did make a few trades. One of them was a pretty substantial one, and I hope you guys will like it, and hopefully my owner will like it too. this was not the substantial one. This was, I said I wanted to trade Thairo Estrada to open up playing time for Jim Epps, and we were able to do just that. We traded Estrada, Dylan Floro, and Geronimo Franzua. And the main piece in this deal, we got Ramon Lagareda and Titan Kamaka. That was just more to get some more minor league depth, get some tradable pieces into the minor league system. The main piece was Steve Bernard, this relief pitcher. Right now he's graded out at a 35 out of 80, but he has 70 great potential. Seems like he can have solid stuff, solid movement, average control, 2 good pitches in his fastball and his sinker. He has good stamina, but he doesn't have another pitch to be a starter. Ground baller, always curious and asking questions. This was the big guy, 23 years of age, so hopefully he'll be a big part of our bullpen and a cheap part of our bullpen in the years to come. The big trade we made was with the Detroit Tigers, and I basically shopped the player around, and I was kind of surprised that I wasn't surprised that he had a lot of value, but some of the names I saw were crazy. I saw Adley Rutschman, who's right now an 80 grade catcher. He's one of the best players in baseball in this save right now. So I thought about that, but they gave him an 8-year extension worth, I think, like $200 million or something, and I didn't really want to commit that much to a catcher when we have Ali Sanchez and Drew Romo, who are just, they're good enough. We can get by with them. But the Tigers were interested in him, and I was playing around. I was seeing, what kind of true value we could get if we traded him to the Tigers, and we got some solid pieces, I think. So the trade we made with the Tigers was we traded Danny Chacon, Kemp Alderman, BJ Haynes, our first-round pick last year, and Hunter Green for Spencer Torkelson and Riley Green, and they were nice enough to retain salary so we could afford Riley Green's salary this year. So we did trade Chacon, who is fragile. He's been really good since coming to the major leagues. An 822 OPS his rookie year. He was at basically around a 900 OPS this year. He's already a 2.2 win player, on pace for close to 4 wins. He can do everything. He can do it well. He was on a cost-controlled, team-friendly deal for a while. Obviously because he did just, come to the major leagues. But he was fragile, and I didn't want to deal with the possibility of him becoming very injury prone and just never being on the field. So we traded him. We traded BJ Haynes, as I said, our first round pick a year ago in the draft, a guy that is the number 61 prospect right now in all of baseball. Struggling a little bit at A-ball this year. Thought he would be doing a little better. He's only 20 years old, 60 great potential, sits at 96 to 98 with 5 pretty solid pitches. But we did trade him in this deal. We also traded Hunter Green, a guy that I said I was not going to trade, but because of all of the starting pitching depth we've acquired, I thought that it was, it made kind of sense because they did want him, 55 grade starter. He's pretty solid. The numbers don't show it, but he was, he's a pretty solid pitcher. And we got Spencer Torkelson, a guy that we're buying high on, the guy that won the home run derby, the guy that won the All-Star Game MVP, a guy that's really breaking out this year, a 154 WRC plus, a 963 OPS. He's been a 3.6 win player, already 25 home runs and 69 nice runs batted in. And we get Riley Green, a guy that we're going to buy low on. He really burst onto the scene in 2024. He was an 8-win player. Last year, he dropped to a 6-win player. This year, he's only a 1.8-win player. The worst season so far of his major league career. He has not hit the ball nearly as well as he has in the past, but we're going to buy low on Riley Green and see if we can make him another, I'd like to think that playing half of his games in cores, he's going to get back to those numbers and maybe even post some better numbers. He's only been in the majors for 4 years. His salary this year was astronomical, so that's why they kind of had to eat some of that salary for us, but I think that he can be a really good piece for us, as could Spencer Torkelson, whose salary is not as astronomical, though it probably will be next year because of the season that he's having. So that was the big trade that we made. It did hurt to trade Danny Chacon. I thought that he could kind of grow along with this team, but he's 25, Torkelson's 26, Green's 25, so we still have that young kind of aspect with it. We didn't trade him for, there were offers for guys that were like 27, 28, 29, but I really wanted to try to get guys that were around Chacon's age that were still going to be on that same path when we are able to be a contender again, and this move will definitely help. And then we made just a minor trade with the Marlins. We traded Thad Ector for Aaron Brooks, Andrew Vasquez, and Josh Roberson, who are now Brooks is now going to fill Hunter Green's spot in the rotation. We have Vasquez up here in the Major League bullpen. A lot of lefties in the bullpen. We have 3, and Josh Roberson's up here as well. So that's our bullpen right now. And then our lineup right now, of course, we have Riley Green in there. He's going to be in right field. The other good thing about these guys, they're really good defensively. Playing in Coors Field, playing at other places, your corner outfielders don't need to be really, good defensively. But in Coors Field, they do kind of have to have some range. So we get Riley Green, 60 grade range, 80 grade error, and a 55 grade arm. And Torkelson, 65 grade range, 70 grade error, and a 65 grade arm. So they're going to play very well in the outfield. So, my thought process now is that we have Torkelson, we have Riley Green. If we get Derek Curiel, not if, when we get Derek Curiel in center field, that's a really nice outfield. That's a very enviable position to be in. Where do I have Curiel at? Is he at? He's at AA right now. Like as long as he continues to develop 75 grade range, 80 grade error, 60 grade arm, along with this bat, that's going to play really well in center field, especially in Coors. So that's a nice outfield that we have right there. If we take a look back at the lineup, we have Hunter Bishop, who's now going to be able to be slotted in at DH out of the outfield. He's only 28 years old. He's only been in the majors for a couple of years. So that'll be another good offensive piece that we have. So that takes care of these spots in the lineup right here. Jim Epps, I think, could be a pretty solid second baseman for us. It seems like he'll be okay in the field. He has high intelligence. Seems like he should be pretty solid with the stick. So that's another position we don't need to worry about. Romo and Sanchez, I don't know how long we're going to be able to keep these guys. Sanchez himself is fragile. He's making $2.1 million this year. Romo is okay. He's not making that much. But if we can keep these guys together for a while, that's a good 1-2 at catcher. That's a good position to be in. We will have to obviously find a long-term first baseman, but I think that could be, where is Chad Kirstein? That could be Chad Kirstein, who really rocked single A Fresno. He had a OPS over 1,000. He was close to a 3-win player. So Kirstein could develop to be our first baseman of the future. You take a look here. He's only 24 years old. So it seems like he's developing pretty well. Like his ratings are already looking pretty good. He could probably be in the majors right now, honestly. But we're going to let him get a little more seasoning in AA, maybe bring him up in September. So that's our first baseman right there. So we could have something kind of like Romo and Sanchez at catcher, Kirstein at first, Epps at second. We would need a third baseman of the future, or just a third baseman. It could be Michael Chavis, honestly, if he wants to keep signing cheap deals. But or someone like Chavis. We do need a shortstop. That's probably the biggest thing. We need a really, really good defensive shortstop. But then we'll have Torkelson, we'll have DeCuriel, we'll have Riley Green, we'll have Hunter Bishop. That's a pretty solid lineup, if I do say so myself. It's a young lineup, too. And then in terms of the pitching staff, we have Kumar Rocker, we have Kendall Williams, who we can either keep in the rotation or bump back to the bullpen in a middle relief, long relief role. And then, of course, we have Cameron Burford, we have Jenderson Zapata, we have Danny Rodriguez. We don't have BJ Haynes anymore, but we still do have starting pitching depth. So I'm pretty happy with the position that this team is in right now. You see that despite having a player payroll that's second to last in Major League Baseball, a budget that's in the bottom 6 in Major League Baseball, we seem to have a good group of talent, young talent, finally, for the first time. Which is good. We have our scouting and our development budgets maxed out, which is good. So I think for the first time, I kind of actually am feeling pretty good about this organization. There's a lot of reasons to be optimistic, and I'm hoping that with these moves that we've made, this team is able to get to contention relatively soon. Because you think about it, in 2027, I'd like to think that Rocker, he will be in the rotation. I'd like to think that Burford will be able to be in the rotation. Zapata and Rodriguez might get up at some point in 2027. I think they probably could. And then if you're just looking for one more guy to fill out that rotation, bullpen pieces, you can always find bullpen pieces. I'm not concerned about that. And then the lineup, of course, it's Curiel is definitely going to be up at some point in 2027. So I'd like to think Kirstein will be too. So we're looking pretty good. I'm excited about the future. Hopefully I don't get fired. Hopefully my owner kind of sees what we're trying to go for here. And yeah, so that was an exciting episode. I will simulate to the end of the season off screen. That's where we will start episode 27. I want to thank you all for watching. Hope you guys enjoy your weekends, and thank you again for watching.